All right, so mixing Matthew Mercury from their live in the studio performance. Why does it sound good? Well, basically, it's a great band with a great song, and I really just had to do my best not to screw it up. So you can see there's about 10 neat and tidy tracks here, not a lot of editing going on. The band has a really simple, catchy song, really organized and balanced arrangement. I needed to follow suit with my mix. We're gonna have some loud ass drums down the center, and then we're gonna have some equally balanced keys and electric guitar on the sides, and then we're gonna tuck the vocals there in the middle at just the right level. One of the interesting things with these live in the studio things is you're always going to have a ton of bleed, usually mostly drums, in the lead vocal mic. So let's check that out. Ah, yeah. There are those drums in the background of the lead vocal. And there's some guitar. But anyway, when the vocal finally comes in,
left you a message on the sidewalk.
okay.
I'm standing now.
You don't want to start by mixing your drums perfectly, getting the perfect level of cymbals, of hi-hats, of crash cymbals and everything, and then trying to add the lead vocal on top of that, because suddenly you'll have way too much cymbals. What you really need to do is start from the lead vocal. You need to get a basic mix going for your lead vocal. Compress it as much as you want to compress it. See how much the bleed is going to pop out in that lead vocal. Here are the drums. And the instruments come in. And you can hear there's really not a ton of bleed of the other instruments in the drum mics. All right, so let's check out the bass. It's direct, of course. Got that great new wavy phaser effect going on it. Then we got the keys, which are stereo, and they're on 2 tracks, and they've just been bussed into one bus so they can be on one fader, and we can process them as one track. Then there's the electric guitar. You can hear there's a bit of drum bleed in the electric guitar too. So as far as the tones on these things that I've also been getting nice compliments on, it's all the band. It's their cool kick drum that they brought, and the cool mute they had on top of the snare, and the effects pedals the bass player is using, and the patches the keyboard player made, and the cool guitar amp, and the way the guitar is played. My job was just to bring that out in a balanced way so you'd hear what was going on. So yeah, the main thing on a mix like this is just getting those kind of philosophies down and the balance of things. And if you get that, it's gonna work. But I will go through and show you some of the fun things I did to get where the mix is at. Coming up with a drum sound like this, and we'll hear it. Just those 3 mics. Looks like a lot of plugins and stuff here, but it's just very subtle layers on each one of those things, so none of them are doing anything crazy. But there is one thing that kind of does a lot of heavy lifting and makes a big difference on the drum bus, which is throwing an effect rack on from Sound Toys and throwing 2 decapitators in it on 2 different styles of distortion, bleeding in a little bit of drive on those. With the mix at 100%, I'm not a big fan of scaling the mix back on these. So basically without it, it's fairly subtle, but this is without it. With it, it's definitely a little wussier. I'll crank this up to show you what it does. Basically, it makes indie drums sound awesome. I mean, that sounds sick. I think that's fun, but it wasn't really what we were going for on this mix. So what I like to do is turn it up like that and then just kind of turn it down until you barely notice it in there, but it's still making everything nice and fast. And then I have this other style going, which is just like not doing so much heavy lifting with one plugin all the time. So we have a layer of this distortion here, and we have a layer of this distortion here. And they both come together to create a really natural, really transparent sounding element of punch to those drums. So let's check out the bass guitar next. Nothing crazy going on there, but I guess the one like little cool tip that I always love to do on bass is pull up Saturn plugin. It's from Fad Filter. It's a distortion saturation plugin, and it's got this great little graphic EQ with this one band on it that's just like so good for bass guitar. It's like you crank it up and it makes your bass guitar audible in a mix on an iPhone. And let's hear it in the mix to hear what that does. Like obviously we're overdoing it, but you turn that up and like suddenly you can hear that bass. And then yeah, you just bring it back down until it's a more reasonable level. What did we do on keys? One thing I do on a lot of tracks is use this Satson plugin. It's a really cheap plugin from a company called Sonimus. Puts a little drive on each track, emulates the sound you'd get if you were mixing through an analog console. And when we're processing direct keyboard tracks, I like to crank it up pretty strong because they tend to not really sit with the other instruments that you record with a mic very well unless there's a little bit of grit on them. So again, yeah, didn't do too much to those. They sounded great as is. It wasn't my job to build a tone there. Same thing, of course, with the guitar. You know, these guys have a very specific sound in mind, and it's awesome. So really what's making this all work is just how they put their parts together. It really has nothing to do with me. The main thing is that I need to just show those in just a really clear representation. Keys on one side, guitar on the other side. Just comes together beautifully. All right, so the lead vocal.
Left you a message on the sidewalk. I'm standing out here in my overcoat. You know it's getting hard to moonlight. The mood is heavy, think I'm gonna choke.
All right, so we got a little bit of that Saturn on there again on this heavy saturation preset. Mix dial back a little bit, gets us that strokesy distortion going, and then we also make it even more of a complex thing by bringing in this Echo Boy delay with this Dirt Echo preset that has some great grit on it too.
You kiss the sinner and you go slow. You stand up slowly, say I gotta go. Oh, now baby, ain't we?
And all that combines to really do some fun things with the drums, really.
Ain't we all right? Oh, now baby, ain't we all right? Shake, like a
So we get to the backup vocals now. That's one of the only things I did kind of edit here, which is just to kind of manually gate them, cut the regions up so they're not playing and the vocalists aren't singing.
the heart aches.
And you can hear a lot of drums come in on those tracks when they come in and out, but you don't really notice it in the mix.
We all ride. Shake, shake, move like a vision.
Alright, so giving away all my secrets here, one of the things I love to do on backup vocals is just use a bit of this micro shift. It's like a chorus stereoizer type plugin, and what I use it for is just to kind of diffuse backup vocals a bit and set them into a mix a bit. So here's what that does. So nice and dreamy and kind of in the back. Turn it off.
Don't break.
Much more direct and in your face. With it on, you can still hear them great, but they're just kind of pushed back in space a little bit where they need to be.
Vision, the heart ain't seductive.
So yeah, again, just kind of keeping up our thing of balancing left and right. We had 2 backup vocals, so we'll put them just a little bit off to the sides. Balancing each other. So anyway, I think that really sums up the philosophy of doing one of these live in the studio mixes. Just like keeping everything really simple and balanced with like a clear game plan and just being true to the song and just letting all those fun noisy elements that come out when you're recording in a room like that, all the bleed and all the happy accidents that happen, just bringing all that to life and just rolling with it. So I hope you got something out of this. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.